Y'all, it has been a hell of a fucking Wednesday. One, I have done 87,000 lives. So if you have been watching me on Substack, I mean, I have been live since like 12 p.m. But I'm bringing all the energy back to Damnation as I close out this breaking news day. From Donald Trump and MBS to Epstein file bill landing on his desk to now the two-step from the DOJ, the fact that Donald Trump's little blonde Barbies that are pretend lawyers are pretty much unqualified and should be disbarred. To the fact that we're not getting any new jobs numbers so that Donald Trump can continue to lie and tell us that things are better than they are. Buckle up, dear friends. It's time for the Danielle Moodie Show, and there is a lot to get to on this Good Wednesday. Damnation, I am so happy you're here. Hello, Damnation. Happy Wednesday. I am so happy that you all are here. It has been a blockbuster day, and I'm so glad to close out this news day with all of you. So without further ado, grab your pets, grab your cocktails and your mocktails and your plants, because America, y'all, I don't know. This may be the final series, like the the finality, the what is it, the final of like the series finale. That's what I feel like we're in right now. Like we're in the series finale of America, and I'm just like on the edge of my seat, also terrified at what scene is going to come next. But I say this, nothing pissed me off more than this motherfucking photo, than this scene from yesterday, and then the subsequent pictures that we saw come out of this absolutely obscene and grotesque display of Donald Trump providing maybe real fellatio, but definitely verbal fellatio to MBS Mohammed bin Salman. You know, the man who is behind 9/11, the man who, according to our own intelligence, was behind the murder and dismemberment of a U.S. citizen and Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi. Yeah, that fucking guy. You know what's amazing to me about right-wing MAGA world is that when it comes to a Muslim advocating for, I don't know, equity and justice and economic viability and all of these things, then those people, whether you're Zoran Mamdani or Mehdi Hassan or Wajahat Ali, Rashida Tlaib or others, you are called a fucking terrorist. But they have absolutely no fucking problem literally being in bed and gargling the dick of an actual fucking terrorist, so long as he got the loot to spread around. This display yesterday was sickening. It was disgusting, not only to the fucking families of victims of 9/11, but also to Jamal Khashoggi's family, to all of us as Americans, that you have the audacity to want to sell us Islamophobia and lies about good Muslim people, good Muslim citizens of this fucking country, and tell us that, they can't be trusted. But then the man that we know that our own U.S. intelligence tells us is a fucking terrorist, you're shaking hands with and sucking his dick in the Oval Office. Folks, I'm telling you, this sent me yesterday. It fucking sent me because, one, Look how fucking disgusting the Oval Office looks. And two, I mean, how many fucking terrorists is this motherfucker going to parade into the people's house? Like at this point, I don't even want, there isn't enough sage, there isn't enough Palo Santo, there isn't enough prayer to actually rid ourselves of the fucking Trump metastasized cancer that has filled this White House. At this point, we might as well demolish it on his way out the way that he did the fucking East Wing, because I want no part of it. Oh, I can fucking not. Okay, I cannot. So we know he welcomes him. It doesn't matter. We know this is what he says, folks, according to the New York Times. It was a chummy scene that underscored the president's desire to maintain strong relations with Saudi Arabia. Not strong relations, by the way, on behalf of the United States, just the strong relations that had his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, walk off following Donald Trump's first term with $2 billion. That kind of relations. You know, the kind of relations that allows Mohammed bin Salman to use Donald Trump as a motherfucking puppet and use the American people as a way to whitewash all of his wrongdoing and human rights violations, right? And uses, right, our economy as a way, again, to wash away the sins that he does over in Saudi Arabia, whether it be through golf, and now he wants to buy CNN and other places who will now also provide him with the fellatio that Donald Trump is so well exhibiting to us in front of our faces. My fucking God, it is obscene. He said this, quote, "We've been really good friends for a long time. We've always been on the same side of every issue." I'm sorry, what? I wish that Donald Trump would have said that on the campaign trail in 2015. I wish that he would have come out and said that on the campaign trail in 2024, that you and a murderous fucking terrorist have been on the same side of every issue. He has no problem fucking telling the truth now, because Donald Trump would love to be able to murder journalists that speak out against him. He would love to be able to marginalize women even further and take away their rights, right? He would love to be able to move and act in the way that MBS has acted his entire political royal life, right? Like, that's why he loves this man so much. I just want to say it again. We've always been on the same side of every issue. Y'all, when the devil shows you who they are, believe them. Okay? Believe them. There is no way to come out of this and say, oh, no, that's not what he meant. He meant on the same side of business. He meant on the same. No, he said on the same side of every issue. Okay, got it. Check. So the 42-minute appearance contained plenty of talk about business deals and diplomatic partnerships, as well as a presidential fit over pointed questions, as I showed you yesterday, that were directed. The fit was directed at Mary Bruce from ABC News, who had the audacity, to ask Donald Trump and MBS about 9/11 and about, murdering a journalist. It was just, folks, it was probably the most disgusting display of obscenity, greed, human rights violations, disregard for human rights. I mean, it was, and then the dinner, and Elon Musk is there, and Larry Ellison, who just was able to broker a deal to buy Paramount and Warner Brothers, like that, he was there, right? As Waj always says, George Carlin quote, "It's a big old club and you ain't in it," right? It doesn't matter whether or not, you are staunchly for Israel and rights and whatever. You go where the money is. And right now the money is in Saudi Arabia, so that's where they all are. It is disgusting, and it shows you just what a lack of fucking integrity these people have. Donald Trump has turned America into a 2-bit whore of a fucking country, okay? That we just open up for any fucking body that will throw Donald Trump a fucking $400 million plane, throw him a fucking gold brick. Like, we are the whores of the world. That is what Donald Trump has done to America. Okay? Okay. Meanwhile, Mean fucking while. While, he's showing off his gaudy Oval Office, while he's, falling onto his knees for MBS, what is happening around the world? Like, what's happening around the country, right? Like, what's going on? Well, we wouldn't fucking know. And here is why. Because the Labor Department has decided to come out and confirm that they're canceling the jobs report for October. And oh, by the way, the one for November will probably be late. And you know what they're blaming it on? Oh, the government shutdown that they all caused. Or maybe it's because we are anticipating that the jobs report is going to be even worse than what private firms have said in terms of the hundreds of thousands of jobs that were lost, not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector. This is what was reported. The Labor Department announced Wednesday that it will not release monthly jobs numbers for October due to complications from the government shutdown, though it intends to include some data in November's report. The closely watched economic data is collected via two components: a survey of employer payrolls that is used for top line changes in the number of people working, and a parallel survey of individual households that provides the unemployment rate and other demographic information about the workforce. Federal employees who conducted the household survey were furloughed during the period it would normally be collected. So the department's Bureau of Labor Statistics, oh, oopsies, doesn't have the necessary data. Isn't that convenient? The household survey data is not able to be retroactively collected. Also, incredibly convenient. So get this. Labor Department doesn't have the data that we need to see just how much Donald Trump is fucking up our economy and just how fucking terrible the job opportunity is in the United States. But we don't have to, because I told you yesterday when we were talking about the AI bubble that is about to burst, much the same way that the .com bubble burst and the housing bubble burst, and, no one was held accountable, but regular people lost their livelihood in their homes. Yeah. So now, private firms have told us exactly how many hundreds of thousands. I think that from Donald Trump's inauguration, January, to now, mid-November, that America has lost collectively about 1.1 million jobs. 1.1 million jobs. And one of his economic advisors, who I showed you earlier this week, was on television talking about a soft job market because, they are absolutely, working on ways to better use AI in middle management. And so, young people coming out of college probably won't be hired as quickly as they used to be. Nonetheless, we got no jobs numbers, right? But Donald Trump, for whatever reason, is saying this.
Everything is jobs now, because I don't care. I care about jobs. And we have more jobs. It was just announced. We have more jobs right now than we've ever had in the history of our country. Those are big numbers. It's like crazy. It's just a great stat. More jobs today than we've ever had in the history of our country. And we're going to be producing a lot more are coming. In my first term, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world, and now we're...
In your first term, America added $7 trillion to the national debt, and the economy was in the absolute fucking shitter. But according to Donald Trump, who now, believes that we're all just as stupid as the people that he surrounds himself with, thinks that because he says that the job numbers are so great that we're going to take this habitual fucking liar's word for it, when everything shows us that no, the jobs market is not great, and no, you are not doing the best job fucking possible. But because you have directed your Labor Department not to release any of that data and information, then guess what? I guess you're going to assume that we'll just take your word for it. Get the fuck out of here. So on top of which, you would think to yourself, well, self, maybe once the government is, fully back up and running from the Republican controlled shutdown, that maybe we will get those numbers back. Oh, no, 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 no. They say that the data is gone for good. Yep. The October data is expected to show negative job growth because of the more than 100,000 federal workers who participated in the deferred resignation program and formally left payrolls in late September. And so, yeah. And then they also say, we're not getting that information back because, oops, we furloughed those workers. They didn't finish their reports and then we fired them. So there's that. So then you ask yourself, well, I mean, also there must just the tariffs, we were told that tariffs, Donald Trump's favorite words, they were going to help us out. No, they're not. Trump's global tariffs curtailed trade, data shows. The steep tariffs Trump issued in August led to a contraction in imports and the trade deficit, newly released data show. Oh, a contraction of $340 billion. Trump's sweeping tariffs took a toll on trade in August as imports of goods and services dropped 5.1% to $340.4 billion after taxes on exports from roughly 90 countries went into effect on August 7th. Newly released data from the Commerce Department showed Wednesday. Now, math, not my greatest subject, right? But I'm going to say 5.1% drop in imports of goods and services, bad. Just fucking bad. Everything is showing, folks, that we are not, first of all, we're in a recession. Nobody wants to say that, though. So we're currently in a recession when you look at the jobs that we are bleeding, right? The goods and services that are not being bought from the United States anymore, the massive layoffs that are happening across industries, right? Inflation, and the fact that just taking Thanksgiving into consideration, which we will be celebrating next week, that Thanksgiving costs much more this year than it did last year, and that your grocery bills are much higher this year than they were last year at this time. We are in a recession, and Donald Trump is careening us towards a depression on top of the AI bubble that's getting ready to burst. And AOC most recently said yesterday at a committee hearing that she really hopes that the government doesn't do with AI firms what they did with the big banks in the early aughts, which was use our tax dollars to bail out billionaires who are too fucking greedy, right? Not to do their business on the up and up. But what they are basically doing is playing 3-card fucking Monty with our healthcare and our food and our resources. Okay? That's what they're doing. And then when they fuck it up, which they inevitably do because they are not geniuses, they are just robber barons, we're the ones that pay the brunt of it while they continue to shelter their wealth. How wonderful is that? So good. The data, which incorporates less than a month of Trump's new tariffs, illustrates how the sharp increase in trade taxes has scrambled life for international business. U.S. firms clamped down on purchases of foreign machinery, industrial supplies, pharmaceutical ingredients, and telecom equipment as tariffs went into effect in August, after months of stockpiling that had filled their storerooms and warehouses. Roughly half the drop in imports was because of a decline in the purchases of gold, which investors had rushed to buy the previous month as a safe haven for their investments. U.S. goods exports also fell in August, shrinking by $500 million to $179 billion as the rest of the world bought fewer American consumer goods, cars and car parts, and gold. That was offset by an increase in exports of U.S. services, including travel. So we're doing a bang up job. We're doing so bad, even Fox can't lie anymore.
Trump's approval rating falling to 38%. That is the lowest it's been in his second term. People are unhappy with Trump's handling of consumer prices and, yes, the Epstein Files. Kim Strassel joining us this morning. Does this mean Trump's affordability messaging isn't working yet?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Stuart. And this is a huge wake-up call for Republicans. And if you actually look at Trump's approval rating, it actually has been sliding for a while. And I think what happened here is voters had a lot of optimism that he really was going to turn around the economy. And they've given him 9 months now, and they've been waiting, but suddenly they've been looking around, and things really haven't improved to the degree that they thought they would on cost of living. Yeah, I mean, gas prices down in some areas of the country. There are some glimmers of good news here and there, but overall, he's not performed, and that's what the polls are saying. He's not lived up to people's expectations. So Republicans, they got a lot of work to do in a short period of time before the midterms.
Well, this is precisely why they're trying to gerrymander the fuck out of the midterms, because their policies are wildly unpopular. By the time that the midterms come around, guess what? Your healthcare premiums will have gone through the roof, right? That is going to happen January 1 of 2026. So, and Donald Trump said he's not signing any legislation that would extend the ACA subsidies. So every single person that has been using marketplace healthcare, has been getting their own healthcare, like myself, which I told you, my healthcare is $700 a month. I am not going to be getting healthcare after the subsidies are expired and not extended. Why? Because I can't afford for my healthcare costs to double to $1,400 a fucking month. And by the way, also have an apartment and a roof over my head. So I am a single person. Imagine what this is going to do to families. Let me take a breath. On top of which, okay, so what was the big news, right? And we know what the big news was as of yesterday, which was the Epstein bill vote that passed through the House and sailed through the Senate as is, which shocked the shit out of Mike Johnson and Donald Trump, that were praying that Senate Republicans were going to add a bunch of amendments and addendums, and then that bill was going to have to get kicked back to the House for review, and then the House could continue to banter, go back and forth, and then guess what? Then they would kick it back to the Senate. And so they were hoping, right, when Donald Trump came out on Sunday night and said that he had done an about face, right, on signing the Epstein bill if it made it to his desk, and encouraging, right, House Republicans to vote for it, because he never thought that it was going to make it out of the Senate, right? He thought that he was going to give himself the breathing room because Senate Republicans weren't going to send him out, weren't going to sell, quote unquote, sell him out, right? Because they were going to do their best to continue to protect pedophiles, right? The guardians of pedophiles, the GOP. So he and Mike Johnson get fucking blindsided. And Mike Johnson, because he's a fucking idiot, when he's asked by a reporter today his thoughts on the fact that the Senate passed the bill, he goes, I'm very concerned. Me and the president are very concerned about the passage of this legislation because there were definitely amendments that needed to be made. Then why weren't those amendments made in the House? You yourself, Mike Johnson, signed the bill. Why would you sign something that you had such deep issue with? No, you all were playing a fucking game and you got burned, because now Donald Trump has a couple of courses of action that he can take, right? Sign the legislation, but then Pam Bondi's going to turn around and say, well, there's new information that has come about, which is what she has done today. New information, new investigation, which means that, I don't know. I can't really release all of those things now. Folks, there was never any intention to release these files. So the bill is on Donald Trump's desk. The timing of the signing is still unclear, but the president says, earlier in this week that he would sign it if Congress passed it. Pam Bondi said today that the Department of Justice will, quote, continue to follow the law as questions remain regarding the timing and scope of documents release. Senators from both parties on the Judiciary Committee told CNN that the DOJ must comply with the law and fully release the files within 30 days. So here we go. U.S. Justice Department will release Epstein files within 30 days, says Pam Bondi. This is according to Reuters. The U.S. Justice Department will release the files from its investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein within 30 days. Pam Bondi said on Wednesday, after Congress voted nearly unanimously to force Trump's administration to make them public, the material could shed more light on the activities of Epstein, who socialized with Trump and other notable figures before his 2008 conviction on charges of soliciting a minor for prostitution. The scandal has been a thorn in Trump's side for months, partly because he is a fucking sex offender. He amplified conspiracy theories about Epstein to his own supporters. Many Trump voters believe his administration has covered up Epstein's ties to powerful figures and obscured details surrounding his death, which was ruled a suicide in a Manhattan jail in 2019 as he faced sex trafficking charges. They go on to say, we will continue, this is Pam Bondi, to follow the law and encourage maximum transparency. But that release may not be comprehensive, as the legislation passed by Congress allows the Justice Department to hold back personal information about Epstein's victims and materials that would jeopardize an active investigation. Trump last week ordered agencies to investigate several Democratic figures who associated with Epstein, and officials could decide not to release any information tied to those people. Okay. So here's the thing. Donald Trump directed Pam Bondi to newly investigate Democrats. Well, pedophilia apparently seems to be very bipartisan. So if she can't release the information associated with, let's say, a Larry Summers or a Bill Clinton or Bill Gates, who most notably showed up this week in the emails, his advisor, Bill Gates' advisor, was in a constant back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein, and saying that Bill Gates, really wanted to do business with him, but his now ex-wife, when they were married, didn't want her husband to be involved with this, pedophile. And maybe wanted to save their reputation as well as the reputation of the institutions that they have their names associated with. Her divorce, right, was one of the big reasons. Epstein. And she said so in a one-on-one interview. Anyway, so let's take a listen to Pam Bondi's bullshit, and also Kash Patel. Ugh.
Attorney General, do you mean that you will provide all the files by 30 days?
We will follow the law. The law passed both chambers last evening. It has not yet been signed, but we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
Madam Attorney General, the DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. there's new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
Maximum bullshit is what she continues to provide on a regular basis. And, not even their own base buys the bullshit that she is trying to sell with regard to Epstein. And, you see back there, Kash Patel just standing wide-eyed. Apparently blinking is really difficult for him. But, remember, Kash Patel got his call to fame saying that there was a deep state inside of the Department of Justice, inside of the FBI, covering up the Epstein files. And once we get in there, what are we going to do? Release the files, until you then realize that, oh, your boss is all up in the fucking Kool-Aid, and there isn't enough Sharpie black ink to redact that motherfucker from it. So you get in there and you say, oh, there's not much to see here, folks. I was just talking out of both sides of my ass. Yeah, folks, we're not seeing these files. I'm just going to tell you right now. We're not seeing them. Donald Trump is either not going to sign it, or he's going to sign it to still have the perception that he is for accountability, knowing good goddamn well that Pam Bondi is going to have skid marks over her back from the bus that he's going to throw her under when she says, oh, but I can only release, there's so much stuff out there, but we have new information, but you told us the investigation was done and you didn't need to do any more investigation. Remember when she said, I got the files on my desk. I got the files on my desk, she said. Now, all of a sudden, apparently she needs to redo her homework. Folks, all of this just shows me over and over and over again. One, these people clearly not to be trusted. These people clearly absolutely fucking ridiculous. And just what they have done to our country, what they have done to the credibility of our country, what they have done to re-traumatize the victims of sexual trauma and abuse, right? The lengths that they have gone to try and convince us that 14 and 15-year-olds are barely legal. The more that you recognize the absolute structure that has been built around these men, the dam, if you will, that has been built around these men, that has now sprouted all of these leaks that they can't fucking control. The cracks are there, right? And it is up to the rest of us to take a motherfucking crowbar and break that dam wide open. Wide open. Because what this party has done is their best to protect pedophiles. And the American people should not have amnesia. If we are afforded a free and fair election in midterms, they should not have amnesia about who the Republican Party has been. And the only reason, again, right, that the Republicans in the House came out in the hundreds to vote for this is because of what Tom Massey said. Donald Trump may be able to help you in midterms this time around, but he will be gone the next time that you're up for election. And how are you going to defend your legacy when you have chosen to protect pedophiles rather than children? Because I sure as hell am not going to forget. So before we get out of here today, did y'all see this breaking news? Did you see this breaking news this morning? Like Halligan. Oh, the beauty queen. That Donald Trump basically illegally appointed as a U.S. attorney who is never tried a case, wildly unqualified, but has the look that Donald Trump loves so much. The full grand jury put together for the Comey case never reviewed James Comey's indictment. DOJ prosecutors just admitted to a judge that instead of presenting a new indictment to the grand jury after it declined to approve one of the counts, Halligan simply brought an altered version to the magistrate's courtroom for the grand jury's foreperson to sign. God, these people are so corrupt, says Brian Krasenstein. So here it is. Comey case hanging by a thread, according to Politico, as judge squeezes DOJ over Halligan's handling. The Trump administration's criminal prosecution of former FBI Director James Comey appeared to be in serious jeopardy Wednesday as the federal judge overseeing the case repeatedly questioned the validity of the grand jury indictment charging Comey with lying to and obstructing Congress. U.S. District Judge Michael Nachmanoff pressed prosecutors during a hearing on the events around the September 25th charges against Comey, questioning whether the entire grand jury ever saw the two-count indictment that a magistrate judge received after the grand juries rejected one of three charges proposed by interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. Nachmanoff said this: "Your counsel of record, you can address the court," asking her to explain whether grand jurors beyond the foreperson were present when the original indictment and a narrower substitute one were presented to the magistrate judge. Halligan: "The foreperson and another grand juror was also present." So 2 people? Apparently confirming that all the grand jury members present that day did not see the substitute indictment prepared after the group declined one of the false statement charges Halligan urged. Layman's terms, she didn't do her work. And when asked to show her work, right, she fell short. Because you see, the reason why James Comey, Tish James, and others were not indicted by qualified attorneys and therefore fired because they referred to, they decided not, refused to go along with Donald Trump's pressuring of the legal counsel and pressing the Department of Justice to indict his enemies because they said there isn't enough evidence to do so. She said, meh, I'll just white out these parts here and then fill in what I think is right and then run it through 2 people instead of the entire grand jury. It's like every day is an episode of the crossover between Black Mirror and Veep. So this was great because a former Trump White House attorney, Ty Cobb, said that Pam Bondi and Lindsay Halligan should be disbarred and that Bondi lied to the courts. I do think that both Halligan, and let me see if I have this. I'm not quite sure that I do, but let's just see, dear friends. Hold for a second and see if I can't find it because I did think that it was worth our time. Hold one second. Let's see if I can get this to you because this guy who looks like a cartoon character was a part of Trump's first administration. And as he is watching all of these pieces play out, Pam Bondi and Halligan, he's like, yeah, they shouldn't have their jobs. So take a listen.
Indictment, though, that it doesn't really have to be dismissed. It doesn't really exist. It was never properly returned. So I think what we heard today, shocking, never occurred before in American jurisprudence. I think will be dispositive. But on the other hand, there's so many dispositive issues here, including her illegal appointment.
Well, I do want to ask you about that. You've said that you think both Halligan and Attorney General Bondi could be disbarred over this case against Comey. And that was before we learned what happened today in court. It also raises questions for me that if you're going to use Lindsay Halligan in this manner, the fact that she has no experience, is anyone overseeing that work to make sure that problems don't arise? But what do you think now?
Well, I do think that both Halligan and Bondi should be disbarred. Bondi has twice submitted affirmations to this court about the propriety of Lindsay Halligan's grand jury presentation. She knew this. There's no way she could not have known this, and that's just means that she lied, or that she's equally incompetent, but more likely that she lied.
I mean, it's like, but which one is worse? The fact that she is wildly unqualified for the job that she was put into illegally, right? Or that she's a liar, because I'm not quite sure which is worse. You being a fucking idiot or a liar. And frankly, with these people, we really don't have to make that choice, because both things can be true at the same time. You can both be wildly incompetent and a fucking liar. Right? Which is the MO of the Trump regime altogether. I mean, here's the funny thing, folks. They want to talk so much about DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion and people getting jobs that they don't deserve. And we see what happens when you fill an entire government filled with the most incompetent, stupid, unqualified fucking people, because all that they have in common is their ability to suck Donald Trump off and their ability to go along with white supremacy and racism and cheer it on. That's their qualification. They don't have anything. These people couldn't get a job as a checkout person at a fucking discount store. Do you know what I'm saying? No disrespect to those at discount stores, but my God, you don't need to have a robust resume in order to work in those places. You would think then, though, if you are appointed as a U.S. attorney, or I don't know, the head of the FBI or the Attorney General of the United States or the Secretary of Transportation, that you would have more on your resume than I was on a fucking podcast, or I was on fucking Road Rules, or in a beauty pageant. That's who is running the country. Bringing us back to the beginning, then you want to know why we're in the shitter. You want to know why everything in America is imploding at the same goddamn time. Y'all, I swear to God, this is what I will say as I close out today, which is, you gotta give gratitude. And my friend, Jared Yates Sexton, who I do the check-in with at 12 p.m. Eastern on Substack. That video is up right now on Substack. He calls it reverse gratitude. When you got to give gratitude for bad people and bad shit. And why is that? Because what Donald Trump is doing for us is he is opening our eyes, taking the wool away, squeegeeing off the rose-colored glasses, and allowing us to see America for who it is, allowing us to see the obscenity of the greed, of the lies, of the cowardice, right? We need to see it. We need to stop pretending that it is just a handful. No. Donald Trump is the avatar of the worst fucking elements of America come to life. And he has filled his entire regime with copycats of himself. And if that is not enough to make you fucking sick and make you realize, man, what do I have to do to never live through this shit again? Right? To open up the eyes of future generations so that they don't make the same fucking mistakes that we made twice. Right? This is who these people are. They are brazen and they are dumb. And I can't think of a more dangerous combination than that. But This is where we are. You feel great yet? You sick of winning yet? Well, I know that when healthcare costs go through the roof come 2026, we're just going to be fucking sick. And that will all also be a part of their plan. You know, survival of the fittest or survival of the richest. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. Shout out to all of you who were on this marathon ride with me today. I told Wajahat in our midweek check-in on Substack that I was doing my best impression of him because I did like 4 back-to-back interviews today, and that was a lot. And I'm just like, I don't know how he does this every day. I don't know why he would do this every day, but I'm glad to have had the conversations that I've had today because they're important and they're necessary. Folks, I will say this. I do believe that we are in the midst of a great awakening. I do believe that a majority of Americans are waking up from a deep, deep slumber. I do believe that the tentacles that have wrapped us in the indoctrination of exceptionalism around America, I do believe that they are weakening, that the hold is lessening, and that the truth is coming to light, right? And I do believe that we got to do the work to continue to revel in the truth, to share the truth, and to stand 10 toes down for the kind of country that we actually want to live in. Because this shit is not sustainable. And we are watching all of the cracks, and they can't plug the fucking holes. And like I said, the dam is about to break wide open. And it is going to be those of us that are not on rocket ships to Mars or building billion-dollar bunkers that are going to get caught up, right, in the tsunami that is of their own making. Before I get out of here, dear friends, I do want to shout out Susan, just dropping so much today. Thank you so much for the super stickers and super thanks. Susan, our wonderful moderator, also gifted a membership to the Danielle Moodie channel. E. Schwartz, as always. Susan again. PJ, thank you so much. In the middle of nowhere, appreciate you. No pepper spray, thank you so much. And Susan, once again, thank you so very much. Folks, this is independent media. I am people powered. The only way that I'm able to do this work is because of your generosity. And so I appreciate every single cent and every single dollar that you are able to send my way. It allows me to do the kind of work that I do with the integrity and passion that you all deserve. That being said, understand that I am never going to put my work, the news, behind a paywall, because I believe that that is where critical thinking and democracy go to die. So know that if you don't have the ability to become a paid subscriber to this channel, which there are 2 tiers that are available, or a paid subscriber to the Damn Digest on Substack, do know that you will not miss a thing. But for those of you who do have the ability, please do consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Damn Digest and becoming a paid member of the channel. All right, folks, we are almost to the end of this good goddamn week. So I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Join me there. In the meantime, I'm getting ready to put up a plethora of videos that I did today on Substack. So do make sure to check it out over there. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be well.